Hello, and welcome to One Broadway Collaborative, virtually anyway. I'm here with Max Shultz today.
Hello.
Hello, Max. Do you go by Max or Maxwell usually?
It's actually like this weird thing where about half the people call me Maxwell, half people call me Max. Like even my family's divided. I don't know why. They just are. Well, so whatever you're comfortable with, I don't care.
I like Max because it's easier to say, but I kind of like Maxwell in terms of the sound of it. I like calling people by their full name. Like my son is Benjamin, so you know.
Yeah. I use Maxwell for like I use that for all of my official stuff. Like my book's Maxwell Shultz, my comedy is Maxwell Shultz. But I don't care.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then I'll intersperse with both.
Okay.
So I've known Max a while, and Maxwell has been going to comedy for a long time. He used to go to the comedy open mic at Coffee in Salem, New Hampshire.
Yes, I did.
It was comedy and music and all kinds of stuff, and he's been around quite a while. And I've been admiring your comedy and the fact that you can stand up there and just talk. It's, you know, I like being behind a guitar.
Right.
Because it gives me sort of a cushion, I guess, between me and the audience.
Sure.
And something to do with my hands, you know.
Yeah. So. I like being behind an instrument too. Like I can't, I'm sure you know this personally, but for listeners, like I can't play a stringed instrument to save my life. Mm-hmm. I've tried. I've taken lessons from very well-esteemed people, and usually it comes down to them saying, Max, why aren't you practicing? And me saying, I promise you I am. I just can't do this. But I enjoy being behind a piano or a drum kit. But I much prefer just a microphone and like a stool and just talking for however long they let me.
Are you a drummer?
Oh, yeah. I've been playing drums for almost 20 years.
So I think you're in some bands, right?
Not currently, no, but I've been in a bunch. I don't know, recently, but not that recently. I forget how long ago. I was like talking to some people about starting a band, and then all four of us just kind of went different directions.
It happens.
And it does. And my direction was I released a music EP about a year ago that I did in my old basement. And that's just me singing and playing the keyboard poorly. And then I've just focused on comedy and writing prose.
Mm-hmm. So what was your reason for starting this? What did you need to say that got you up there?
So there wasn't really anything I needed to say. It was I started doing comedy because from like junior year of high school until I started doing it, I guess 3 years later, I had 2 or 3 friends who kept saying like, Max, you need to do this. You need to do stand-up. You should do stand-up. You should do stand-up. And then when I was 19, my last band that was a 4-piece became a 3-piece, became a 2-piece. And then my keyboard player quit, and I didn't know how to play keyboard at the time. And singing and playing drums isn't an act. Mm-hmm. And in like, I don't know, a week and a half span of time, just a bunch of weird things happened to me. And then I went to Coffee, UMC'd. And I just told like 3 bizarre stories.
Yeah, I remember.
And like I'm sure they weren't good, but they were like good enough for me to keep doing it.
Actually, they got my attention.
Okay,
I gotta say. First of all, there was some sex involved, which was interesting.
Was there? I remember my first set being about my coworker. Oh, can I swear or be inappropriate?
Sure, I'll just put an explicit on the podcast.
Okay. So I don't know if this counts or not, but I remember the first joke being about my coworker thinking I had a crack thing. Not a crack problem or a crack addiction, but she was like, you look like you do crack sometimes. Like, what does that even mean? And then about my favorite piece of graffiti I've ever seen, which is still true to this day, on 495 in Massachusetts, in the middle of the highway, there was a slow children at play sign placed there. And that still cracks me up every so often.
Because, of course, children are in the middle of the highway.
In the median all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. And then the other joke was about this. I was in a Chinese food place eating by myself, and this woman came in and approached me and just insisted that she was Mariah Carey. And then, like, went up to the counter and insisted that she was a celebrity to them, and everybody in the room was just like, what do we do? Like, this person's clearly a lunatic. How do we approach this?
You call the police, probably.
Yeah.
I mean,
eventually she just left, and that was it. But I'm pretty sure those 3 stories or jokes or whatever were, I think that was my first set. But then I got into the sex stuff soon after. I learned quickly, and I don't really do this anymore, but I know it's some of your favorite stuff. I learned quickly that, like, joking about delivering pizza to people having sex was a good place to be on stage.
Yeah.
So I did that for, a couple of years. I talked about that because it happened. I still deliver pizza, and catching people in the act happens weirdly often.
wow.
Like, you never see them actually doing it, but it's always somebody like a man wearing backwards women's sweatpants, shirtless, running to the door while a woman in the background is wearing a bathrobe and embarrassed, or something like that. Like, it's always, I know what's happening, you know what's happening, but we're not going to say it out loud.
Well, it's like those porn,
It's just like that. Yeah,
memes,
I
guess.
I have a joke on my album, You Can Call Me Dad, and it's a true story about my dad delivering to a porn star at one point when he was delivering pizzas.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like the closest I've ever heard of anybody getting to, like, that meme of sleeping with the person you're delivering to.
Right.
Of course, he didn't sleep with her, but there's a whole thing that goes into it. But ultimately, he realized on the delivery that this was an amateur porn star.
Wow. And she didn't want to sleep with him?
I mean, I don't think he asked. Maybe. I mean, the situation was, that I understand it at least, was that he knocked on the door. She was like, looked just like anybody else, and said, come in and put it on the counter so I can go get the money, which, like, seems weird, but that's a normal thing when you deliver, is people just invite you into their home.
Mm-hmm.
So he does that, and it's one of those, like, not old, but like first or second apartments you get where the kitchen and the living room are just divided by a couch. Mm-hmm. That's the wall. And so he puts it on the kitchen counter, turns around, and there's a man sitting on the couch watching a porno with that woman in it, but he's not in it. And it's just like this weird moment of, like, everybody's okay with this situation, but it's weird.
Yeah.
Then he left and immediately called me to be like, I have to tell you something at, like, midnight.
Right.
Like, you can't believe what just happened. And then I started telling people on stage, and he actually, when I recorded the album, I did that joke, of course, and he was in the audience, and he was like, yeah, that happened. Like, he was telling, like, the other audience, was like, yeah, that was me. Like, I did that. Like, he was,
wow.
he was like, excited about it.
Yeah. Well, that's, it's interesting when you tell stories, though, as your approach to comedy, and
Mm-hmm.
and when you approach it that way, you tend not to get the big laughs for the punchline, but you get these, like, laughs all throughout because it's sort of like the situation is so funny.
Yeah, and like, now that, I mean, so I recorded that album, which was like, I don't know, 90% of it was those kind of stories that are longer and very, like, Mike Birbiglia-esque in his early career. Mm-hmm. And then I retired all but, like, 3 of those jokes, and the ones I didn't retire just so that I can have longer sets. And everything I've written since that is shorter and is not one-liners, but they're, I mean, before I would, I'd have my 5 minutes at an open mic and I'd get, like, 2 stories out of me. Now I can do 6 or 7 jokes. Mm-hmm. I've got one longer story that, like, I think I'm doing it now just to, like, workshop it with an audience, and it's just going to be an essay I write at some point, because it's not really a joke. It's just kind of,
tell us.
Kind of funny.
Can you tell us?
Yeah, I'm not going to word it like a joke because I'm just facing you, and that's a little bit awkward.
Okay, go ahead.
But the gist is, I start the joke by saying, like, do you ever, like, go to the bathroom and you look down and you realize, like, your genitals look wrong? By which I mean you have something growing on your genitals and you're very concerned, so you go to the doctor, and the first doctor you go to is an urgent care, and they tell you, oh, you have HPV. Your girlfriend definitely cheated on you, and you can never have children. And that's what was said to me.
Great.
Yeah, great. And I already thought that my ex, who I almost just said her name, and that would have been bad of me, but I already knew that she had cheated on me. Like, that wasn't like a huge surprise. It was like, oh, and she gave me HPV, a thing that I'll have a version of till I die. And then I was like, well, I'll get a second opinion. So I went to my PCP, my primary care, and he just kind of like looked at my penis and went, ew. And then he walked out of the room, and then he came back and was like, I don't even know what to tell you. That's just gross. I'm like, you're a doctor. What do you mean that's gross? Like, you're the guy. So then I went to Planned Parenthood, and they were like, oh, all of these people were just wrong. Like, you do have HPV. That part they were right about. But you can have kids, and, like, you can live a normal life. You're not going to pass this on. You just have to get the vaccine, which I got, and rub this cream on yourself that will quite literally burn the skin off of your penis, and then you'll be fine.
You'll be fine after you burn the skin off your penis.
Yes,
that's a phrase I don't think that comes up very much.
No, but the way they said it was so casual. Maybe it does. And I was like, that's a weird like deal with the devil, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
And that was 2 years ago, I guess, a year and a half ago. I don't know. And I'm fine now. So like, I end the joke by saying, so like, and I point to like a not paying very much attention audience member, and I say, so if I take you home tonight, I won't give you HPV unless you ask real nice. And that usually reels them in and sometimes pisses them off, but that's okay. But that's like the only real long one I talk about is like getting HPV and how it was just like this whirlwind of life-altering news that ultimately ended up, for the most part, not being accurate.
Right.
But I'll tell you, being 26 and having spent your whole life wanting children, and then being told you just, if you have kids, you're going to kill your partner with HPV, because that's how they worded it. They're like, you can have kids, but it'll murder the woman.
I had a girlfriend years ago who a similar thing happened. That's why the joke is good, because this kind of stuff does happen in medicine. So she was told she had ovarian cysts.
Oh, no.
And that's why her stomach hurt, and that they had to do emergency surgery and do a hysterectomy right away.
Whoa.
And she had appendicitis. So that was not accurate at all, but it meant I was like in a different state. I had to come back and like be with her for this surgery where she was going to lose her ability to have children, and it turned out it was nothing.
Yeah.
And that's just crazy.
It is crazy.
Because doctors shouldn't say what they don't know.
Right. Right. And I will say, too, every doctor, including the gross doctor, they were all so confident. Like, they were all like, yeah, you can't have kids.
Yeah.
Like, we've seen this before. We know what it means. It's like, all right, well. Like, I'm amazed. I look back and I'm amazed that I even went to other doctors, because I was just like, well, I trust your opinion, but... Well, thankfully, it did.
The best is when the doctor actually takes a long time to tell you, because at least you know they're doing their research, like they're checking into it. Because a lot of times it's very frustrating for people. You know, you got to hear what the situation is later, and that's because they're doing science, and sometimes it takes hours to figure out what's going on.
Yeah,
or
this was literally just like, drop your pants up. No babies.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a little premature.
I agree.
So,
but thankfully, I don't have children yet, which I keep doing that. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right.
That noise is my button on my shirt hitting the wooden chair I'm sitting on. I don't have children yet, and I'm thankful for that. I'm not in a position to have kids yet, but I want children eventually, and I'm glad that I can.
Right. I can understand that, and that's a horrible thing to have to go through.
It was, and like it. I don't know. I'm sure that I'll make more jokes about that breakup. Like, that was the worst breakup of my life. She more or less left me to date my best friend, which is a lot of fun.
Oh.
So there's probably some humor in that somewhere that I haven't worked out yet.
Probably not a good idea to go there right now.
No. But
Still too raw, probably.
yeah, but eventually I'll write the joke about that. I don't know what it'll be, but I'm sure I'll write something.
Yeah. Well, but you're with somebody now?
I am, yeah. I'm with a woman named Haley. It is going wonderfully well. We met, I don't know when. I should know what month it was, but I don't. Anyways, earlier this year, I was visiting my sister in West Virginia, and I met Haley while I was down there, and we've been doing the long distance thing ever since. Kind of very early on with the mutual idea, that she would move up here sometime in the first half of 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we're still at. She came up for Thanksgiving, and she left, I don't know, half an hour before I got here.
So West Virginia?
Yeah.
I had a girlfriend from West Virginia, but I lived in Virginia at the time, so in southwestern Virginia.
No.
But where is she?
In West Virginia, you mean?
Yeah.
Nitro.
Okay, I think I know what that is.
So 20 minutes outside of South Charleston.
Right. I used to drive through there because there's a great music show, since I often talk about music, called Mountain Stage.
Oh.
And they have it, it's like an NPR show, but it's distributed through Public Radio International. And it's like there's amazing musicians they have, but it's like a live show in Charleston.
That's cool.
It's a really cool thing because you get a lot of the bluegrass and mountain stuff, but you also get fantastic performers, acoustic performers from all over.
Very cool. I'll check that out.
Yeah, I mean, they've had Bruce Cockburn, and they've had different folk artists, Dar Williams, and they've had like the Allman Brothers band, not the Allman Brothers, but they're called Government Mule.
Oh yeah, I know them. Yeah.
So, I saw a few shows there that were fantastic.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But so that's an interesting part of the country too.
It is, and I've been going down there not just for Haley, but I've been going down there for 4 years, I want to say. And this is probably a much longer story than you want me to tell on your podcast.
Not necessarily.
But my half-sister, who, I only use that marker to explain the story, lives there, but I didn't know she existed till I was 20. Mm-hmm. And then I didn't know how to get a hold of her or contact her or even her whereabouts till I was 23. And we've been extraordinarily close ever since.
Mm. So where was she?
West Virginia. She at the time she was in St. Albans. Now she's in South Charleston.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. A half-sister that you didn't know about, for how long? I mean...
20 years.
20 years?
Yeah, my first 20 years of my life, I had no idea. And then when I was 23, she found me on Facebook. And honestly, and this will probably be a joke at some point, it's not now, but her initial message, I thought it was like... I don't know if you get these, but sometimes you get spam messages on Facebook that are like, we're prostitutes and come home with us for cheap.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And
you can't avoid them.
You can't, no. And her message was just vague enough that that's what I thought it was.
Yeah.
But I knew her first name and literally nothing else about her. I didn't even know West Virginia. So on that, I was like, well, I'll respond. If it ends up being spam, I'll just block the person. Mm-hmm. And her second message was, hey, I think you're my brother, and here's a laundry list of things specifically about you that lead me to believe this. And I was like, yeah, you are who I am who you think I am. And we should do something.
Okay.
So I think the next day we talked on the phone for 4 hours. And then 3 or 4 months later, I flew down there with enough money in my pocket to get a hotel room till my flight back in case this was awful. Right. Because our phone calls went well, but you don't know what to expect with somebody you've never met. Mm-hmm. And then the moment she picked me up at the airport, it was like we'd known each other our whole lives. It was, and it's still like that. I talked to her this morning. We have a great sibling connection, and I don't really see it. She doesn't see it either. But her whole family's down there except for me and the family up here. When I met all of them, they were like, "Oh my God, you're clones. You look like twins. Like you're just one of you is clearly a couple of years older." And I think we look similar, but I don't think we look like that. But everybody down there insists, like, no, like it's if you had the same haircut and she wasn't wearing makeup, you would be inseparable. And I'm like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
but I think her kids look like shockingly like me and my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been this wonderful thing.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Does she come up here as well?
No, because of, well, there's a bunch of factors, but she's not come up here yet, at least, because there's still tension between her and my parents. That's very confusing, and I'd rather not get super into it, but
yeah.
It's awkward, and we're working on it.
Mm-hmm.
We got like half the family up here, and like I'll go, but the other half is not like rejecting my sister, but they're hesitant for reasons I don't totally understand, and working on that.
Okay. So, when I met you, you were like a pizza delivery guy.
I still am.
And you were kind of just out of high school, I think. Or pretty close to it.
Yeah, I was 19.
Yeah. So, then recently I heard you telling me you were going to Emerson suddenly.
Yeah, I've actually been at Emerson. This is my, third semester, fourth semester?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm graduating in the fall. That's all I know. But yeah, my college journey, I guess. I got out of high school, went immediately to UMass Lowell because I thought that was like the thing you do.
Mm-hmm.
And I hated almost everything about it. Really, the only thing I liked was the radio station, which I still work for all these years later.
Oh yeah,
I do. I have that later today, and so I dropped out 3 semesters in. Went on the road trip that I wrote my first book about and did all that stuff. Worked for a couple of years. And then I went to Northern Essex Community College in Haverhill and Lawrence. Graduated there with an associate's like a year later. And then I took a semester off, went to Emerson. That's where I am now.
Mm-hmm.
And Emerson, although it's unreasonably expensive, it is definitely the school for me. I love going there.
Well, that's in Boston, right?
Yeah.
So do you drive down to...
I drive to Wellington Station, and then I take the Orange Line in.
You going every day? Or
this semester, no. Next semester, I'll be going Monday through Thursday.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it's a commute.
It's a commute. It's annoying, and I'm against my own will. I'm late often because, even if I leave an hour early, the train might be down.
Right.
And there's no closer parking than Wellington, so I'm just stuck waiting. But so far, fingers crossed, this carries over to next semester. All of my morning professors are just like, yeah, we get it. You can't control the T. Get here when you get here.
Yeah. There's no parking on campus that you can...
There's literally none.
Yeah.
I assume my professors either live in walking distance or take the T themselves, but I've never seen them on the train, so I don't know.
Is that in the medical area where there's a lot of
close?
hospitals?
It's like Tufts is where I have to do weekly COVID tests at Tufts. They have an agreement with Emerson and a couple other colleges, but we're really right in Chinatown.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. And you're doing writing, correct?
My major is writing, literature, and publication.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm way more focused on the writing aspect.
So are you working on another book now?
Yeah. So I don't have a title or anything, and it'll probably be a couple years out. But actually, what a great accidental segue. Because the next book is going to be largely about my sister in West Virginia.
Oh, wow.
So for my book publishing class, we had to do a, what do you call that? A book proposal. And I decided to just do it on the book that I've wanted to write for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And when I turned it in, my professor said that it was, quote, perfect. And I was like the only student that she had like no notes for, really. She was just like, this is great. I want to read this book. And so I'm kind of hoping maybe she can help me publish this next book. But who knows? But because of that, I had to do like a chapter outline for every chapter, and most of which I have not written. So I just kind of made it up. Like, they're based on true things, or they are true things. But currently I have an outline for 25 essays.
Wow.
And some version of those 25 essays will be the next book. Which with any kind of luck will be out, I guess, middle 2023.
Mm-hmm.
And if listeners are interested in my first book, This Is Why You Know Me, is available online where you get books, and or in person at Bull Moose in Salem. Or if you run into me, I probably have a copy I can just hand you. I don't actually today, but normally I do. And I sell them whenever I do, not open mics, whenever I'm like booked on a show, I sell them like here. I'll have them for sale on our show here.
Mm-hmm.
But it's called This Is Why You Know Me. It's 21 essays about travel, and it's I think it's fun. Hopefully readers think it's fun too. The feedback's pretty good.
I enjoyed it. I did read it.
Cool.
But the stories in there are, largely from your trip.
Mm-hmm.
So what was that about? Like, you just decided one day, I'm going to take a trip, and you just went?
Basically, it was, I dropped out of UMass Lowell, was miserable, and I hated my job. And so I quit school, quit my job, got a worse job but paid better. And I just worked like 60, 70-hour weeks for 4 months, saved up, bought a dying car. And then I just said, like, well, let's go see what's out there. And I drove south to Florida, west of Phoenix. And then I darted from Phoenix to about an hour north of Philadelphia for a funeral that I had to be at. And then I came home. I was gone for, I believe, 3 months to the day.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was kind of just like a decision to go out and get away for a bit.
Yeah. And
I had the money, and I was 19. I was 20. I didn't have many bills, and my car I paid for in cash because it was the 96 Camry that leaked gas and had all sorts of other issues. So yeah, and I came back. I may have told this story last time I was on here, but I came back from that trip, wrote down 3 of the essays, like super rough drafts. Like, these were supposed to only be seen by me, and I just wanted to remember a couple of these stories freshly, like later on in life. And then I was out getting a drink with a former coworker of mine who said, what are you doing with writing? Like, how's comedy going? All these things. And I told him about these essays, and he was like, well, when it's a done book, my wife will edit it for free. And I was like, I don't know your wife, and I can't ask that of somebody. And he's like, no, she will. And he insists on it. And he's drunk. I think he's, full of it. And then I ran into him like 6 months later, and I'd been working on this thing as a book, but not because of him. Like, I just decided that's the direction it was going to go in. Mm-hmm. And he goes, when are you getting my wife the book? And I was like, well, it's almost done, like a first draft, but I don't know your wife. And then I met her. He like arranged for us to get lunch or something. And we hit it off, and it was great. And then she did, in fact, edit my book for free.
Great.
And that was about a year and a half, 2 years after that, This Is Why You Know Me came out. And I've been happy about it ever since.
So when it came out, did you self-publish?
Yes, I did. My goal for the second one is to not do that, but the first one is self-published, yeah.
Okay.
I used CreateSpace, which doesn't exist anymore, but that's who I used. I hate saying it, but CreateSpace got bought out by Amazon like 10, 15 years ago. But Amazon was still keeping the front CreateSpace. And then like a year ago, and I only know this because I had to do it figured out for my taxes, they got rid of CreateSpace and called it, I forget, Kindle Direct or something.
Yeah.
But it's identical. There's nothing different about it. Even how much money I make is the same, which I assumed I'd get paid dramatically less because it's Amazon.
Right.
But I still make whatever it is a copy. that sells through Amazon or through like a real storefront like Bull Moose. And yeah, so I guess my book is released through Kindle Direct.
So how has it been selling pretty well?
I mean, it's been out for 5 years. Jesus. 4 years? I don't know, something like that.
A bit.
It's been out for a bit. So recently, no. But initially, like, for a self-published book, I was happy with the sales. I mean, I don't have numbers off the top of my head. I should, but I don't. But I was satisfied, yeah.
But you didn't pay up front? It was like per copy? Did they take a percentage? Or
Yeah, so how it worked was, and again, it's been a little bit, so I may be a little fuzzy on some of the details, but I paid them, like, a low amount of money for each copy that I got, and then I sold them at, like, retail price. And then for every copy that sells on Amazon, I don't know if they have them just sitting or if they print a new copy. It seems like it would take too long to just print a copy. I'm assuming Amazon has like 10 copies or something on a shelf somewhere.
Probably.
But they would, just ship it directly to the consumer, and then I would get a percentage of that sale. And then if it's sold in a bookstore or any store, but it's sold like the bookstore contacted like a publishing house who then sent it to them. The publishing house being Amazon, I guess. I get a percentage of that sale as well.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
So when you were doing your traveling, you had some interesting stories. Do you want to share one of them so people can get a taste of the book?
Yeah. From This Is Why You Know Me. I guess one of the stories that was interesting, I stayed in Atlanta, and I'm going to screw up part of this because I don't remember her name. Anyways, there was a woman who I stayed with in Atlanta on Couchsurfing, which is it's basically Airbnb, but it's free. And I was staying with this woman, Andrea, that was her name, Andrea. I was staying with Andrea, and I went in, and I was greeted by this British woman named Zoe, who was delightful. I haven't talked to her in years. We're still Facebook friends. I still see her stuff, She greets me, and she's like, Andrea's asleep, don't disturb her, but this is your bed. And it was like, in the living room, there were like a bed, like 8 or 9 mattresses, and Zoe and I were the only English-speaking people, which was a little odd. Everybody else was from Brazil. I met some of them. They were nice, but like the language barrier was incredible. And like past hello, how are you? There was no, I don't speak Portuguese. I don't know what they were saying. And then Andrea came out and she was like, don't tell anybody I got you from Couchsurfing. Everybody else is paying me to stay here. Don't tell anybody I got you from Couchsurfing. And I was like, why would you accept me if this was going to be such a big deal? But okay, I won't say anything. And then through some string of events, I learned that in the bathroom, there was like a secret door that opened to like another very large living room type area with like 30 people sleeping in there. And I learned through Zoe that all of these people from Brazil were living there for like 3 months and paying, well, I forget the numbers, but an exorbitant amount of money to stay in this apartment. And then I noticed that there was nothing there, like other than the mattresses, and I think Andrea's bedroom had a TV in it. Like there was a refrigerator with nothing in it. There was nothing on the walls. There was nothing. I'm not even sure if there was soap in the bathroom. Like there was nothing in this apartment. And I still, because I was a stupid 20-year-old, like didn't think much about it. And then I left. I did the whole trip. The trip ended, came home, and a few months later she messaged me on Couchsurfing from Montreal saying, oh, can you move your review of me from that account to this account? And it had a different name and all this stuff. And then I think it was Zoe who told me that she eventually went to jail for something we don't know about. Like, I don't know why she's in jail. She may not be anymore. But I believe that she was just illegally harboring these Brazilian people for some reason and making money, like hand over fist doing it. And And once Zoe and I realized that when we were there, we like got out at like 5 a.m. Like, well, if we leave early but not alarmingly early, it won't cause a ruckus. So we leave at like 5 a.m, and then I saw Zoe off at the train station or wherever she was. But yeah, that's a good taste, I guess.
Yeah. Wow.
I think that essay is called Andy in Atlanta.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I've gone cross country a few times.
And I have since that, too. I've driven to California 2 or 3 times.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And you always have interesting stories.
Oh, yeah. There was a guy, I mean, not in the book. I mean, this was later, but I did a couch surfing thing in North Carolina with my ex. And he just had porn, like giant towers of pornos all over the apartment. And he was like, oh, I don't mind that stuff. That's my buddies. I'm like, what arrangement do you have? This is so weird.
You keep your buddies' porn in your house. That's, interesting.
And like, I don't know, thousands of dollars worth of it. And my favorite part of that was that on top of the porn, but not at the tip top, but like 3 from the top, and one of these stacks was the movie Wet Hot American Summer.
No, I like that movie.
I do too. Good. But I always think like, oh, you bought that thinking it was something very different.
That's right. That's right.
A porno with Niles Crane?
Yeah. Not just that, but Janine Garofalo.
Yeah.
You know.
Paul Rudd. Yeah. It's a great movie. It's a great bad movie. But yeah, I think of that every time I see that movie. Is that weird apartment outside of Asheville, North Carolina, where this guy was just like, this is just my porn. My buddy's porn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But the thing is that you're kind of just out there when you go traveling because you have no place, right? You have to find a place. Usually,
I mean, sometimes like I know where I'm staying, but a lot of the time it's just like I'll figure it out, or I'll sleep in the car, or whatever. I learned. At some point, I learned my limit is I can't sleep in the car for more than 4 nights. Then everything starts to hurt.
Yeah, I mean, I had some family and friends around the country, and so I would like call them up and like, hey, I'm an hour away. Can I stay over the night? And they're like, oh, sure.
Yeah, I did a lot of that too. Yeah, and it's nice too because the more you, I almost feel bad saying this because it's definitely like. It's borderline using your friends, but the more you do that, the more places you have to stay the next time.
Right. Although I think at this age, I'm not doing that anymore, and I wouldn't be welcome to do that in most cases. I also have other people with me, so it's different. Yeah. But yeah, you'll have that at some point.
Yeah, I will. But it's fun, and because of all that traveling, I've done stand-up, whether it be like a booked thing or open mics, but I've done stand-up in like 40 states or something.
Right. I mean, it's nice to be young and able to do that kind of stuff.
It is. It is. And like, well, yes, it is. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. And, so you go back and forth to California, you said, but is that specifically to do stand-up tour, or is that for something else?
The first time I went to California, I drove my friend and he moved to San Francisco, and then I went to visit him. Actually, I flew to Seattle, and then drove back. I don't remember. And I've flown to LA to visit a friend of mine a few times. I think I did stand-up all of these times, but it wasn't specifically for that reason. It was always like, like I think the last time I was out there was like, I don't know, a few months before the pandemic started, I guess. And I went to LA to see if I would want to live there. And I still don't know. I might. Maybe LA is for me. I don't know. But I like LA. I don't know if I can live there or not. But
well, I mean, I was actually born in the LA area.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. But I left when I was a kid. But I had family there for a long time. Most of them are gone now. But yeah, I mean, it's different.
Oh, it's way different.
And I lived in San Francisco as well when I was a kid.
That I know.
Yeah,
we've talked about that.
Yeah, and but the you know, the thing is, it's in the West and East mentality are quite different.
Yes,
and
they are.
And I've also lived in the Midwest, and that's a different mentality too.
Yeah.
And West Virginia, which is a different mentality.
Which is a different mentality.
You know, it's quite different to. It's interesting to see the differences between areas of the country, just in the way people interact and the way they talk and the way they assume certain things and don't assume other things.
Yeah, it is interesting. It's interesting, like, what is available and what isn't. Like, this, it's silly, but like, just the most recent example I have is my girlfriend and I the other day were at some store, and I picked up a bag of cheese doodles, and she didn't know what they were. They don't exist in West Virginia. I was like, oh, I wouldn't have even thought of that. But okay.
Well, also, you know, pop and soda are different.
Oh yeah, pop and soda are different.
Silly things like that.
Yeah.
But there's also, you know, like I was in San Francisco during one of my trips, not when I was living there, but as an adult. And I was living in Cincinnati at the time, so I had Ohio plates, and people, more than one, yelled out their window, "Ohio!" And I'm like, yeah, and what is the... And I don't know. I guess it's a thing, you know,
I don't
to
get
yell
it either,
Ohio out your window in California. I don't know. But I just found it really odd.
That is odd, yeah.
But it's things like that. And the fact that if you go to Kansas City, where I mostly grew up, I lived in the East since then, and I forgot or didn't realize that people are nicer. I mean, like... I just, when you go into a store, I was crossing a street in downtown in Kansas City, and there was a crosswalk, so I was crossing at the crosswalk, and the woman in the car stopped fully at the crosswalk, because I was waiting to see, like in Boston, they'll just zoom past, and unless you actually step in the crosswalk, and then they'll stop, maybe. But she like stopped fully, looked at me, waved and smiled, and was like, "Hi, how you doing?" You know, that doesn't happen in the East.
No, doesn't happen at all up here.
Yeah, or San Francisco for that matter.
No,
but yeah, it's like, it's weird. People are friendly in different ways. Like
absolutely.
There it's overt, and in the South too, it's a little bit friendly, but there's a sort of evil to it. Like, it's friendly with a little bit of nastiness just behind it.
It's like, you're being nice, but I know there's like an ulterior motive.
Right. It depends where you go.
Depends where you go, for sure. It depends who it is.
Right.
You know, everybody's different, but I get
But I'm talking with strangers. Like,
yes.
when you run across strangers, they deal with with strangers from different places differently. Which you must have, you experienced in your book, and you
for sure,
you wrote it down, which is cool. Writing those experiences.
Yeah, I know it's weird. Like, I know a ton of people are like, "Oh, so your next book's gonna be about like the other half of the country." And I'm like, I didn't do the other half like in one whack. Like, I don't know what goes on in the Dakotas or Nebraska. Like, I've never been there. So when I've explained to a handful of like friends and stuff that like the premise is going to be largely about my sister, they're like, "Oh, that's not a sequel." I'm like, "It's not supposed to be. It's just another book." I don't know, but it's weird that people have expectations at all, and it's weirder still to be disregarding them.
Yeah, I mean, it's just. It's cool that you had those experiences. I mean, I think those are really what makes you who you are, is being able to go out and experience those things.
Absolutely.
Make those memories that then you carry with you. And you have evidence. I mean, you have a book.
I have a book.
That's cool.
Yeah. And I have years of jokes talking about misadventures of Max Shultz.
What's going on with comedy lately for you?
So I think most comedians can relate to this. During the pandemic, I did some online stuff, but virtually nothing. I focused most of my creative energy during like lockdown on writing music and learning piano and doing that sort of thing. But since, actually with one exception, during the pandemic, like, I don't know, when restrictions were lightening up initially, I got a small audience of like 10 people together with masks and everything, and I recorded my album in my friend's studio, and that's the album that's out now. And then, but since like things are open fully now, comedy's back in like full motion. Like I'm getting out as much as I can. It's hard with work and school, but I'm on a stage 2-3 nights a week usually, and I booked a show with you. I've got one going on in Haverhill 2 days later.
And you're going to do an open mic here starting.
And I'm going to start an open mic here starting December 20th.
Right. Except with 27th, we're closed. But
right. But like it will be weekly.
But then it'll be weekly. Yeah.
Yeah. So that'll be great. And then, just kind of going along, doing as much comedy as I can. I'm writing not as fast as I used to, I guess. But that's all because I'm writing for school.
Right.
But I'm writing pretty regularly with comedy. And
so you've got a show coming up here with Josh Day and Emily Mame Ford.
And Andrew McGinnis is hosting it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm very psyched about that. It's if you like, not just you, but like listeners and you, if you don't know Josh Day's comedy, I think he's one of the best comedians around right now in the area. Josh is like, I would liken Josh to like Stephen Wright, that type of humor. I'm psyched that he agreed to headline this show. It's going to be a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I think tickets for that are available on your site, right? Yeah,
there are tickets available at Ticket Tailor, which is accessible. The easiest way is go to Box Office on my website.
Okay.
And then all the shows are on there.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So you can get the comedy shows, you can get the open mics if you want to pay in advance, although that's going to be just a door charged mostly. And it's a donation.
So. Right. Well, the deal with the open mic I thought was that I thought the gist was it's free.
It is.
But if you want to drink, it's bring your own booze, and there's a surcharge, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, and also if you want to donate just to help One Broadway Collaborative, that's really the main thing. Mm-hmm. But it is BYOB if you feel the need.
Yeah. And with comedy, people will.
Yeah. Well, it helps loosen up the laughing.
A little bit, yeah. And a lot of comedians are alcoholics.
Well, yeah. And musicians.
And musicians, performers.
So, what's going on with comedy elsewhere? Like, are you where are you performing? Is it down in Boston or somewhere?
I mean, like I just did 2 days ago. I just did a show at Marlea Rose puts on a show called Midnight Mayhem at the Mayflower in Ipswich. So I just did like 10 minutes there. But other than that, and I did in August, I did a booked show in Bristol, Tennessee at Blue Ridge Comedy Club, which was a lot of fun. But other than those two, I don't think I've done yet any other booked things because I was sick with COVID, so I had to miss a show that I was booked on, and then I have the one here coming up, and then I have one in Haverhill on the 19th. But open mic wise, I'm going to Mooyah Mondays in Boston on Tremont Street. I'm going to Strange Brew on Thursdays in Manchester. I'm going to Steve's Pinehurst Tavern in Billerica when that happens on what seems to be totally randomly. I can't figure out their schedule. It just somebody says, "Are you coming?" And I usually say, "Sure." Winter Circle in Salisbury. I did one in Maine recently, but what was the acronym? I don't remember. Some craft beer underground, I think is what it was called in Maine. I'm all over the place.
Wow.
Yeah. But like by doing stuff here and in Haverhill and in Marlea's thing in Ipswich that I have no part of, but like it exists. Me and a few comedians, Andrew McGinnis being one of them, like he's really trying to work with this. That's I think why he agreed to host this show here. We're just trying to get more comedy going in like the North Shore, Merrimack Valley area, because there's a lot in like Manchester. There's some in Nashua. There's plenty in Boston. The in between has very little. So we're trying to get like more things popping up here. That's why I think this open mic here in Lawrence will do well. Because I posted about it, like, what if I did one in Lawrence? And most people were like, yeah, Mondays would be great, and
right,
and that'd be fun.
Yeah, so everybody should know about that. If they're listening to the podcast, you should come to the Monday open mics. And
open mics, yeah.
It's, we said 9 p.m.,
9
right?
p.m., yeah.
Yeah, so it's 9 to 11. So it's a later show than we usually do here.
Yeah.
But I find with comedy, that's normally...
It's normally the case. It's normally later. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that'll be fun. And I feel like I'm missing an open mic that I frequently go to. And if the person who hosts it is listening, I'm sorry, because I am totally blanking on what I'm trying to come up with. But I'm all over the place. It's easy to find me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my album, You Can Call Me Dad, came out a little over a year ago, I guess. Or about a year ago. I think it was November of last year I put that out. I think. I don't know. Hell, for all I know, it could have been January. I'm so bad with when I did things.
Yeah.
But I put out You Can Call Me Dad a little while ago, which is a culmination of about 4 years of me doing stand-up. It's like the best of 4 years. I recorded it with my producer, Connor Coburn, who fronts the band No More Blues Tomorrow out of Nashua, New Hampshire. They're tremendous. And
where do you get that?
It's on any streaming platform, basically. Mm-hmm. I think there's a couple it's not on, but it's on most of them.
If you listen, free or?
Yeah, if you listen to it on Bandcamp or buy it on Bandcamp if you're so willing, that's how I get the most money because Bandcamp is a wonderful service. But starting soon, I don't have a date yet because production is delayed for everything. But soon, like in December, I will have physical CDs of the album to sell as well. Mm-hmm. And once I have those, they'll be about $10 a copy. And the album is a little shy of an hour.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
So people can get that on Bandcamp or Spotify or wherever?
Apple Music. It's wherever. Just look up Max Shultz, Shultz, and or look up You Can Call Me Dad, Maxwell Shultz. And the album art is like a illustration of me holding a piece of pizza or a pizza box. Me holding an open pizza box, which is appropriate. And the album art was done by Amy Titus, who is a very close friend of mine and a tremendous artist illustrator. And I was very lucky to have her do that work. And I should mention, too, that the art for my first book, This Is Why You Know Me, was done by Brian Canty, who's also a tremendous artist.
Great.
I like to plug my friends as much as I can.
Right. Well, that's great. So thanks for doing this, Max.
Yeah, thanks for having me anytime.
And so you want to share any other social media where people can find you?
You can find me at Maxwell Shultz. Again, that's Shultz. There's no C in my name. On Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. I think Facebook, I'm Maxwell Shultz Comedy if you want to follow my comedy stuff. But, if you know me in real life, just add me anyways. I probably already have me.
Right.
But I'm all over the place. My Bandcamp is just maxwellschultz.bandcamp.com. Or you can just go to Bandcamp and type in my name in the search engine. It'll come up. My comedy album is called You Can Call Me Dad. My most recent music EP is called Assignment, which is 5 songs that are depressing music. And This Is Why You Know Me is available on Amazon or not Barnes & Noble, it's not there. Amazon, Bull Moose, or by finding me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's everything.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
And you've got a show coming up here at One Broadway Collaborative on December 17th with Josh Day, Emily Mame Ford, and Andrew McGinnis. And that's at 10 p.m. after our Songwriters in the Round.
Yep.
And we've got all kinds of stuff coming up, as you all listeners know. And if you want to find out more, you can always go to the website, onebroadway.org. That's onebroadway.org. And click on box office to buy tickets. You can also check our website for our schedule and Facebook page as well.
Very cool.
So this has been great. We've had Maxwell Shultz on the show, and you can come see him in person on the 17th, and then after that, weekly on Monday nights.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and if not that it promotes this venue, but if you want to see me on the 19th, I'll be at the Ambets in Haverhill hosting.
Okay. All right. Is that the 19th is a Sunday?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's at 8.
Okay. After open mic here, so people can do that.
Oh, no, and the open mic here on Mondays?
No, on Sundays.
It is Sundays here?
My open mic, not yours.
Oh, your open mic. I was like, wait a minute.
There's a Sunday 2 to 5 open mic here.
Yeah, and then you can come about 10 minutes down the road and go to the Ambets in Haverhill and see 7 really good comedians.
All right. Well, so we will be back next week with another show, and everybody have a happy beginning of December.
Yes.